I'm Sneha Raman. I'm a research fellow at the Glasgow School of Art, and I was the PI on the CESAME project. And as you can see, it was a collaboration between the Glasgow School of Art, De Montfort Word University in Leicester, Centre for Mental Health, and Leaders Unlocked. And thank you to Triumph for funding this project. The project ran for a little over a year, from November 2020 to January 2022. So what I'll be presenting today is the kind of summary of the activities that were part of the CESAME project, as well as some of the key findings. If I can move to the next screen. That's the team. I won't go into the background of everybody on screen here, but I think what was one of the key points I would like to highlight is the team consisted of a mix of expertise in terms of participatory design and co-design expertise from the Glasgow School of Art, mental health and expertise around ethnic identity and mental health from De Montfort, as well as Centre for Mental Health. And we also had a peer researcher who's named here, Moise, who was also part of the research team throughout the process, and Emily from Triumph as well, who's here today. In terms of the kind of key rationale for why we wanted to come together to work on this project is we identified that there is a key gap in terms of current understanding of particularly experiences of young people from ethnically diverse groups and at crucial stages of transition, such as moving from primary to secondary school. So again, we all understand that transition from primary to secondary school can be quite challenging for everybody, but we also recognize that in the current literature, there wasn't a representation of voices of young people from ethnically diverse groups in terms of their experiences. So that was the kind of key rationale for looking at this work. And one of the other key focus areas for us was also looking at the kind of social experiences of transitions as well as the educational experiences, so kind of focusing on that kind of development of identity at these key transitional points, as well as development of social relationships was a key part of what we focused on. So the key aim of the CESAME project was to understand what mental health support young people from ethnically diverse groups need and aspire to during this particular transition, looking at opportunities for how we can improve approaches to support young people's mental health in school during this transition, and working together with young people to develop ideas and recommendations for future policy, practice, and research to start to develop more culturally sensitive support in schools. I also have to maybe at this point talk a little bit about the language. So I have been talking a lot about young people from ethnically diverse groups. And this is a conversation that we had as a research team, as well as with our young participants in terms of the existing terminology and language. And we felt that a lot of the current use of terminology such as minoritized groups or minority groups were negative, and young people were quite keen to focus more on the diversity of the experiences that people from different ethnic groups have. So that was what the key rationale for why, as a team and as a project, we decided to use the terminology young people from ethnically diverse groups to talk about our participants. So in terms of the methodology, the key approach was a participatory design approach, and really building on the lived experiences of young people from ethnically diverse groups to start to understand what their current experiences of transitions from primary to secondary school looks like, and to understand from their perspective how these could be better in the future. As mentioned, one of the young people was a member of the research team as a peer researcher. So they worked with us right from the beginning of the project to the very end in terms of developing the outputs and ensuring that voices of young people were accurately represented in these. There were also 7 young people who volunteered to be participants in the study. And again, we worked with the 7 young people throughout the process of this research. And I'll talk a bit more about the detail of the activities in the coming slides. So in terms of the engagement with the young people, this happened over the course of a year across 4 key collaborative workshops. In the first workshop, we really wanted to get to know the young people, as well as start to have this conversation around young people's perceptions around some of these topics that we wanted to explore. So we recognized that when we were talking about the project in terms of that intersection between mental health, ethnicity and identity, and transition from primary to secondary school, while the intersectionality of that topic really was essential in terms of addressing the research gap, we also recognized that we needed a way to discuss this in an accessible way with the young people. So the first session, we really spent exploring, understanding what young people's perceptions around some of these topics are. And we started off by discussing mental health and understanding the language young people use to talk about mental health and well-being. And in order to support them with this conversation, we also asked them to do a little bit of a pre-workshop activity where we asked them to identify an image or an artifact that represented what mental health meant to them personally. And the young people sent this to us ahead of the workshop. So we used that as a warm-up activity to discuss young people's perceptions around mental health. And there were some really beautiful metaphors and analogies that were used by young people, which also helped us as researchers to understand how to have these conversations in a meaningful and accessible way. So for example, one of the young people presented an image of balancing stones and talked about how mental health is not just about mental ill health, but it's really about that balance of positive health and negative health. So that's something that as a group we recognized is a language and concept that we carried throughout by what we mean by mental health. In the second workshop, the focus was on mapping young people's experiences of transition from primary to secondary school. Across the 7 participants that we had 2 of the participants who were in the early stages of transitioning into secondary school, 3 of the young people who were kind of in sort of at the middle, they second, third years, and we had 2 young people who were towards the kind of final year of secondary school. So that also provided us a range of experience in terms of some of the young people reflecting back on what those early days of transition looked like versus how they feel probably a bit more settled in their kind of secondary school context just now. In terms of the third activity, then we built on what young people presented, or the visual map that we created of young people's journey from primary to secondary school to start to identify some of the key issues or challenges. Again, we worked with the young people together to identify key challenges from their perspective and what they felt were key opportunities in terms of changes in the future. And in the fourth and final workshop, we went away and we synthesized some of the key concepts that were emerging from the third workshop and presented it back to the young people in terms of a map of future experience. And young people then further contributed to discussing how some of these concepts can then be implemented in the future. So really starting to think about who might be involved and what kind of changes might be required in the future to make these transitions in the future better for young people. So here's an example of the first activity that I was describing earlier in terms of understanding what mental health means to young people. Again, I won't go into the details of it, but just wanted to give you a glimpse of the different types of ideas and visualizations that the young people had brought together. This is an example of the early stages of the mapping of young people's experience of transition from primary to secondary school. So again, to support this activity within the workshop, we provided a pre-task for young people where we created a sort of virtual design pack that was created in the form of a slide deck, where young people were asked to create mood boards to represent their journey of transition. And we kind of prompted this to be across 3 key stages, which is kind of last years in primary school, looking at the in-between stage of moving from primary to secondary, and then the third mood board looking at the early years after being in secondary school. We also wanted to explore a little bit of how ethnicity and identity shaped these experiences, as well as their experiences of mental health. So we also asked them to kind of consider what ethnicity and identity means to them. So some of the images that you see on the left, for example, are images that young people used to talk about what ethnic identity means to them personally. So we also use that as a way to talk about where there might have been experiences in their transition from secondary to primary to secondary school, where some of where their ethnic identity may have had a role to play in how it shaped that experience. We synthesized the visual stories that were mapped during the workshops in this format. As you can see, I'm trying to map the journey from primary to secondary school in that kind of middle line, but also identifying that influences in terms of identity and mental health experiences and mapping them on the top and bottom of the journey. And from this, the young people were able to elicit what were key opportunities or key challenges from their perspective. This is the final map that we put together, synthesizing all the ideas that young people came up with in terms of how some of those challenges may be addressed in the future. And we thematically clustered them. And as you can see, a lot of the kind of key themes in terms of that breaking stereotypes and changing perspectives. Young people also talked about potentially having a longer transition period to allow them to have that time to settle in, and giving more of a tailored and individual approach so that young people can transition into that new context and at their own pace. We also talked a lot about peer-to-peer models. Again, I won't go into each of the concepts here, but just wanted to give you a flavor of the different types of ideas and themes that emerged from this conversation. So as I say, peer-to-peer model was one of the key ones here. And we also looked at how then these might be implemented in the future and who might be involved.
Just 1 minute, if that's okay.
Okay, I'll just quickly wrap up, thank you. Here's some quotes from young people in terms of their experiences. Again, I won't read it out, but we can hopefully get a sense from the quotes on the screen. And from these, what we, as the final outputs for the project, we synthesized key kind of implications for practice, research, and policy, which is what we'd set out to do as kind of the key aim of the project. So as I say, some of the kind of ideas that came up for practice and what schools might do in terms of supporting this transition included longer transition period, peer-to-peer mentoring, actively promoting ethnic and cultural inclusion, and fostering a mutual learning and sensitive environment where staff and students can come together and have open conversations about these topics. In terms of research, some of the key findings were in terms of there needs to be better representation of ethnically diverse groups in research around mental health and transitions, but also, again, looking at ethnically diverse groups as disaggregate groups and not homogenizing them all as one, because young people from different ethnic groups might have different experiences based on their identity and background. I'll move on to the next one. And in terms of, again, policy, again, the key questions we had was how would some of these recommendations be integrated into whole school approach to mental health, and how might schools be supported to embed cultural education and inclusion as part of both primary and secondary education. In terms of next steps, one of the key gaps that we recognize in the current research is that we weren't able to involve schools and practitioners. So the next stage of the project, we will be hoping to work together with schools and to develop some of these ideas further. And our participant group for this stage of the study primarily were from England. So we would also like to understand experiences from across the UK. And essentially, one of the key kind of learnings for us as a research team was the role of the peer researcher. So in the next steps, it would also be valuable to explore further how this might be integrated better and what the value of peer researcher in mental health research and research with young people in future could be. So pause there, and that's our website if you'd like to find out more about the project. Thank you.